This is PIX on Politics Daily with Dan Mannarino.
Hi there, I'm Henry Rosoff, and welcome to this episode of PIX on Politics Daily. It really has been quite a week in New York City as it relates to matters of immigration. It was last weekend, about 5 days ago, as I'm speaking to you now, that a off-duty Border Patrol agent and their companion were shot during what appears to be a botched robbery by two people that federal and local authorities say were in the country illegally. One of those two people at least had moved in and out of NYPD custody several times, but because of sanctuary policies that bar the NYPD from cooperating with federal authorities, they were not detained by ICE, even though there were ICE holders on them. So you had the Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, come to New York City. You had the border czar, Tom Homan, come to New York City and blame Mayor Eric Adams, the city council, and local officials point blank for this border agent being shot. And by week's end, you had the federal government suing New York City over sanctuary policies. Now, Mayor Eric Adams has not been a fan of sanctuary policies. He said that they need reform. They need to be more focused on just protecting undocumented people who've done nothing wrong, that want to access hospital services, that want to go to school, that want to seek local government benefit. But as far as policing is concerned, he believes there should be a modification. In the middle of all that, this debate over sanctuary policies, you had a renewed focus on what federal authorities are doing, particularly at immigration court and at work sites, where they are arresting undocumented people who have not been accused of anything wrong. In fact, at immigration court, showing up simply to have their lawful asylum hearings, their lawful green card hearings. And then they're going into this holding facility in Lower Manhattan at 26 Federal Plaza that has been the subject of a lot of scrutiny. Federal authorities have not allowed local inspections by members of Congress, including Dan Goldman, who represents Lower Manhattan, to see this facility. And we got some video out just this week that showed really poor conditions. Only one working toilet, no access to medical services, blankets everywhere, people sleeping on the floor for days and days on end. The federal government says nothing untoward is happening here, but the New York Immigration Coalition, which released the video, says this shows just a downright, according to NYC, cruelty on behalf of the federal government. The mayor, in response to this video, even though he's been hesitant to criticize the Trump administration, released a letter demanding that the General Services Administration, think of them as sort of like the building manager / landlord for the federal government, to inspect this facility. So all of that kind of sets up the conversation I had with Murad Awawdeh of the New York Immigration Coalition. Take a listen to our back and forth about some of these immigration matters, especially around immigration court and the controversial holding cells that are there.
I think that the mayor is finally taking action, but also it seems like it's a little too late and too little in this moment at the same time. This is someone who has been incredibly disingenuous with immigrant communities for the past several years of his administration, and we need him to go further. We need more than just rhetoric, we need action.
And what does action look like? I believe Comptroller Lander and Public Advocate Williams have said the city may have some sort of jurisdiction here as far as building and fire safety inspection. Is that the action you're talking about?
I think that's a start. The mayor we had to get, pulled kicking and screaming to make critical investments in immigration legal services. Now is the opportunity for him to go further. The council was able to secure an additional $50 million for immigration legal services. I think the mayor needs to put, the money where his mouth is, right? And make sure that he's also investing deeper in immigration legal services, that he's not colluding and not allowing city agencies like the NYPD to collude with ICE enforcement that's happening across our city, and to ensure that they are doing their job and following our local laws, which prohibit their collusion, and not supporting family separation and Donald Trump's mass deportation agenda.
Let's get your response to, and I know this is a couple days old, but it's after our last conversation a few days ago. In response to the video that you guys released, the Department of Homeland Security said in a statement, and just to get your response, this continues to only be a brief holding facility. Your response to them saying there's nothing untoward going on here.
Well, what we do know is that the Department of Homeland Security continues to lie and not tell the truth to the American people. Initially, they were saying that no one was being kept at 26 Federal Plaza when we knew that people were being kept there days and weeks on end. And that continues to happen. The video that we released showed over 24 men in one room where there was one broken toilet, one working toilet. The person who's speaking on the video is saying they are getting very little or no food and have absolutely no access to communicate with their families and legal support. 26 Federal Plaza is not a detention facility, but the Department of Homeland Security is using it as that. So they're playing this game of roulette of what they can get away with and taking away people's rights. And in this moment, those people who are in that detention facility should not even be there, because they are literally going to immigration court seeking justice and safety and trying to adjudicate their applications for immigration relief. And what's ending up happening to them is that they're being tricked and tracked to get there and then detained and disappeared while they have active cases. So this is a travesty of justice in this moment, and that is the real fight here. Yes, the conditions are inhumane and that's horrible, but they should not be detained to begin with.
I'll end it here to be respectful of your time. We're hearing today from the public advocate. He observed firsthand just in the last couple of days the denial of language access services, which is resulting in confusion in immigration court and ultimately cases being dismissed, which almost sounds like a good thing. But if you understand immigration court, it means that you no longer are eligible for status and makes you more subject to deportation. So what is your concern about a language access service at this time?
You know, Department of Homeland Security has an obligation to provide people with information in the language that they understand. These are people who have navigated treacherous journeys to get to the United States and are literally following the legal process to apply for status in the United States. And when you are undermining their ability to participate in the legal process by not providing legal language access, that then undermines their due process rights. And that's even more concerning because people who do not speak English or understand what's happening are having to deal with the system without a lawyer, without a translator, and then having these actions being taken against them, not understanding what's happening. And we've seen this not just happen with the example you're mentioning with the public advocate, but this has happened several times already, especially for folks who have come from the African continent who speak a variety of languages and not getting language access.
Now, that interview you just saw there with Murad happened just before the federal government filed its lawsuit seeking to break the back of New York City's sanctuary policies, blaming those policies for people being unlawfully put back into the community instead of handed over to immigration authorities for deportation. That'll make its way through the federal court system. We do not expect a resolution to that anytime soon. The city council has consistently over the past year or two, with Mayor Adams questioning some sanctuary policies, said they do not want to change sanctuary policies. So all of that will play out both in the courtroom and on the campaign trail for mayor. You have Curtis Sliwa, the Republican nominee, praising this lawsuit by the federal government meant to undo sanctuary city policies. You have Mayor Adams, who's still being careful when it comes to the Trump administration, saying that he will review the lawsuit. He's directly named in it as the leader of the city and has reiterated his position that he wants to see some sanctuary policies changed. And you have Zohran Mamdani, the Democratic nominee. He's still out of town visiting family. He should be back in the coming days, but he is a strong protector of sanctuary status, as his platform position states, and has said repeatedly he would not cooperate and push back strongly against the Trump administration. So a lot of moving pieces, both in the courtroom and politically, that we will continue to track here at PIX 11. But that'll do it for this episode of PIX on Politics Daily. I'm Henry Rosoff, wishing you a great day.